Hello, everyone. This is a presentation that brings together some of our experiences in India as well as in Bangladesh. So it's a two-country presentation. The way we are approaching this in the next 20 minutes is to first try and interpret what we've done in India within a theoretical model that we are using called the cultural preparedness process model, as you can see on the screen. And then we have some very interesting survey data that's come in from national surveys, both in Bangladesh and in India. Based on this, we'd like to very quickly present you three principles that we have used in our interventions, and then some of the key observations that we could keep in mind as careers practitioners in different parts of the world. So to begin with the model itself, the cultural preparedness model, going on to the next slide. Abhishek? Yes. So this is a model that we are using where our work is embedded in the processes of cultural learning. The first construct that we use is the notion of enculturation, which happens to all of us simply as members of a certain culture. Enculturation, the process whereby we absorb unconsciously tenets, rules, norms of a certain of the culture into which we are living. Now, this enculturation leads on to what we refer to as a cultural preparation status equilibrium. And what we mean by this is that we absorb the rules and the regulations and the norms of our cultures, and this puts us in a state of internal stability. So in a given culture, the boy or the girl or the young man or the young woman would have in his or her mind some notions about what work is and how these choices are to be made. Yeah? Culturally mediated equilibrium. Now, these two factors are influenced by other cultural processes. For example, the individualism, collectivism continuum, the way in which value is attributed to careers, the processes of role allocation, occupational role allocation. So, for example, in a certain culture, the way occupations are, the decisions are made might very well be ascribed to that individual by that culture. An individual might be told you ought to become a doctor or an engineer, as we see in our Asian context. Now, this also leads on to the notion of acculturation. No culture is insulated entirely from other external forces, and as you know, there is constantly an influence from other factors, other forces, which influence the existing cultural equilibrium. Therefore, there is always a process whereby there is a new equilibrium emerging, as you can see on the screen. Keeping this in mind, let's move on to the next slide. And when we speak of acculturation and new equilibrium emerging, our career guidance and our interventions with young people occur on the background of macro conditions, isn't it? There are global factors which are like a canvas against which we have to draw our career guidance story. Now, these global transformations form the backdrop against which human engagement with work and career can occur. And quite often, these external factors are so big that the individual has little or no control over these external factors. Yeah, looking at the next point, these could be social philosophies, economic trends, political changes, technological advances, natural phenomena, natural disaster. All of this influence the career guidance process. In our countries, for example, because of economic liberalization and globalization, new occupations emerged over a period of time. And this therefore influenced the manner in which that cultural preparation status equilibrium changed. Now, going on to the next slide, one of the most pervasive and disruptive macro conditions we have experienced in our lives, I don't have to say this, is what you can see on the screen, which is the whole COVID phenomenon. Yeah? The COVID has affected all of us. Perhaps we don't have a memory of such a global event in our living memories, but it has affected the little baby and the elderly grandfather as well. The focus of this presentation is how we have tried to mediate the COVID-related crisis in the context of young people, young adolescents in grades 10, 11, and 12, right? So I'll hand over now to my colleague Abhishek, who will take you through some of the first rounds of data that we have collected from different parts of India. Over to you, Abhishek.
Thank you, Dr. Gideon. Greetings to all. My name is Abhishek Ghosh. and I'm a career counselor associated with Promise Foundation, Bangalore, India. Over the couple of slides, what I will do is I will walk all of you through some of the trends which are emerging about the education sector disruption in India caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. So we are drawing upon a nationwide survey, which is called ACER. ACER stands for Annual Status of Education Report. And this is a comparative report between the year 2020 with 2018, that is the pre-pandemic time. And that is where we are trying to see how pandemic is affecting schooling and learning opportunity among children. As we can see, this survey draws upon a large sample size, and children ranging from the age of 5 to 16 years were covered. In the subsequent slides, we will walk you through some of the questions which was surveyed as part of the ACER 2020 report. The first question: has there been a shift in school enrollment and the school type? Like in countries in India, we have two primary categories of school, the private and the government. We do find that during the pandemic, there was an increase in the government school enrollment. This data trend probably indicates it was an economic decision taken by the parents due to the income stress all of them experienced during the pandemic time. Moving on to the next question: were efforts made to gain access to online education resources? Now, very interestingly, we find that there was little change in the purchase of other household appliances like television or vehicles. However, there has been a sharp increase in the purchase of smartphones by the parents, cutting across all the socioeconomic status group, which again indicates that parents were willing to spend money so that their children could gain online access to education material. Moving to the next question: was help available at home for educating the children? Well, we find that for 75% of the students, learning support shifted from teacher-centric learning towards home-based learning. Parents took up the primary responsibility and they were supported significantly by the elder siblings. Unfortunately, we do find that as the grade level for the students increased, the help at home related to education came down. Moving on to the next question: were education materials sent to the respective home, either from the institution or the schooling system? Now, we do find quite interesting data emerging out here. We see only 1/3 of the children received some material at home. For distributing this education material, WhatsApp emerged as the primary medium, probably because of the cost effectiveness. And we also find 1/3 of the children did not receive any material, although they had a smartphone access at home, which also indicates that possibly there was a breakdown at a systemic level. Moving further, who did these activities and what's the difference? 30% of the children did not engage in any learning activities. Learning activities, we find, were more frequent in families with higher parental education. Interestingly, even if no materials were received, more than 1/3 of the children engaged in some sort of a learning across all type of family, which again indicates that there were a group of families who were willing to take on the responsibility upon themselves. Now that we looked into the quantitative data which came across from the ACER 2020 report, let's look into some of the qualitative data. Promise Foundation did a survey to pick up the social cognitions pertaining to career education among the grade 10 students. We interviewed these students and their parents, and these were urban, educated middle class students from the city of Bangalore. Now, what were some of the thematic representation which we could pick up? The students told us, my childhood is lost. I have not learned anything this year. My career plan is wrecked. I have not had a good career. My future is dim and I don't know enough. Now that we looked into the quantitative and qualitative data trends emerging out of India, let's shift our focus into the trends which emerged from the country Bangladesh, for which I will hand it over to my colleague, Mr. Joseph. Hi, Joseph, over to you.
Thank you, Abhishek. Greetings, everyone. I'm Joseph Chakma, a career guidance practitioner from Bangladesh, also associated with the Promise Foundation. I will take you through the next few slides with some useful data found in Bangladesh by the BRAKE Institute of Governance and Development in 2020. Here again, there are lots of parallels between India and Bangladesh. As you can see here, the sample size is quite substantial, so the findings of this report are quite reliable. Perhaps, firstly, we find that the massive decline in the study time and engagement in school. Here, the blue bar represents the time before COVID pandemic, and the other bar represents the study time after COVID hit. As you can see here, there is an 80% decline after the COVID pandemic. In the next slide, you can see that before COVID, there is no unaccounted time in children's life. The bulk amount of time is in education, work, and recreation. But after the COVID pandemic, as you can see, the bulk amount of time is unaccounted. So perhaps children were hanging around, having a great time, but did not really engage in any learning. So moving to the next slide. So this is again an important point to keep in mind while we are planning for intervention. What were the remedial measures taken in Bangladesh? It is that everything went virtual. But if we see a bit closer, we find that television and the internet were the only main virtual methods. The interesting data here that we find the majority of the children who engage in virtual classes engage through television, and online engagement was rarely seen. And this is of a particular importance that self-study has increased significantly. So whether there was television or not, whether there was internet connection or not, Bangladeshi children did their part. In this sample, the Bangladeshi children, 96% of the children said, okay, there is no teacher. Let me see what I can do. Now that we have looked into the reports of Bangladesh, I'd like to invite my colleague, Ms. Poonam, for the key observations of these findings. Over to you, Poonam.
Thank you, Joseph. My name is Poonam Jain. I'm from India. I'm a career counselor and associated with Promise Foundation, Bangalore. I will take you through the key observations based on some of these reports. As we all know that before COVID, learning was centered around teachers. But when COVID comes, what happened? The learning environment shifted away from school to home, and home come into the focus. And the whole notion of home learning environment has come into the center stage for teaching learning engagement. To providing learning support has transferred mainly to parents. Parents were ones who stepped up, and to some extent, elder brother and siblings come forward to support the child. Other methodologies were attempted, like hybrid learning, content delivery through digital modalities. Moving on to the next slide, we have seen that learning has shifted from face-to-face to virtual. When we say virtual, what we mean to say here, virtual means the television and the internet. And we have seen in the BRAC report of Bangladesh that television more often used than the internet. So here the parent literacy comes to as a key variable. As parents literacy is high, the engagement is proportionately high. So the rest comes on the phenomena of self-study. We have seen in the report of Bangladesh and India's report also that many young people and adolescents reported that let's do it by ourselves and see what best we can do by ourselves. So here with the concept, with this concept, the home career learning, a home learning environment has become important. So therefore, we are proposing here that the home career learning environment is taken into account. From now, I would like to hand over to my colleague Ryan to tell us more about our career guidance program. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Poonam. This is Ryan from the Promise Foundation. I'm a career counselor from India. So we would like to talk about the Jiva program, which is a culturally mediated intervention. The word Jiva means life in most of the Indian languages. The Jiva career program is based on the premise that a healthy career is integrally connected to one's life. During the pandemic, Jiva was adapted into online format, and over 3,000 students were met for the career guidance program by using smartphones, computers, addressing well-being and person-centered career guidance. Now let us look at some of the key principles that we keep in mind while doing this career guidance program. First principle is development as a spiral, a non-linear approach to career development. In the slide, you can see a ladder. Actually, when we say ladder, we look some of the career developments in a linear approach where a person tries to go from lower position to the higher position. But in this career guidance program, we tell students that development can occur in a spiral mode also. It may not necessarily always pointed towards the forward direction. There may be a requirement to let go of earlier positions and begin anew. This is the first principle. Now let us look at the second principle, that is rediscovering multidimensionality of self. So what is seen in students may only be what is required or allowed, which is a result of the forces of enculturation. So when we meet students, we tell them career guidance could help them develop skills to continually discover new dimensions to themselves. In the picture, you can see an accountant who lost his job during the disruptions using his mathematical skills turned out to be a board game inventor. And you can see the picture where there is mathematics as well as art coming into the picture. So our focus is not the unidimensionality of the self, but on the multidimensionality. This is the second principle. The third principle now is the changing and the unchanged. So during the disruptions, globally, we witnessed a lot of changes. So when we meet students, we tell them there are many things changing in your lives, but there are some things which remain constant. So a career develops in finding the balance between what changes and what does not change so easily. So a self-sustaining way of dealing with change would be to discover, accept, and strengthen aspects of oneself that are stable and relatively constant. This is what we try to communicate to students when we meet them. So these are some of the principles. Now let us look at some of the key targets that can be kept in mind during the career guidance support. For that, I would like to hand over back to Dr. Gideon. Thank you.
Right. Now, pulling all these principles together, these are possibly some targets that we could keep in mind when we're looking at COVID-related or post-COVID career development support. Now, what you've seen in the presentation is that there is a surge in negativity in social cognitions. John Crumbolz referred to this as career beliefs. So addressing negative career beliefs could be a career development target. Focusing on and strengthening self-discovery. Lots of things change around us, but there are factors, there are personality factors, personality traits perhaps, which are constant, and redirecting the individual to the multidimensionality that exists within him or her could be a career development target. The world of work has changed quite dramatically. Earlier methods of understanding the world of work perhaps have changed. So skills for helping young people reinterpret the world of work information. Now, the key point, the key theme that comes through in this presentation is the home, isn't it? All of us have experienced this. So the home learning environment comes very strongly into focus. And this implies that we need to valorize the parent role in career guidance. This also means further that parents can play a very critical role in career guidance, and therefore as career guidance practitioners from our side, how about providing parents with the tools for career guidance that they could deploy within their homes. So what's the message coming through over here? Moving from an individual-centered approach to career guidance, perhaps to a much more family-centered approach. Moving on to the last slide, there's something really poignant that I have for you over here. We spoke to a group of boys and girls here in Bangalore, and we told them about this conference. And this is the message they said they wanted you all to have. Response from a group of grade 10, 15-year-old boys and girls in Bangalore: stop calling us the pandemic generation. A thought that often comes to my mind when we read these statistical reports and models and dire predictions of the future is that, are we projecting labels onto our young people? Last slide. Our young people are making a leap, isn't it? Every career guidance decision is a leap, right? Now, these disruptions that we are seeing are in the present, yes. But I'm questioning the title of this work, of this conference. Does the fact that there is disruption in the present, does that automatically imply that there are going to be disrupted futures? We do believe that there need not be disrupted futures if we can adapt our career guidance methodologies to meet the needs of young people. We'll leave it there. It's 21 minutes, and thank you very much.